Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Asha Shahi from the National Insurance Company Daman, and I am part of the disease management team. Thank you for joining us today in the Mental and Neurological Health in Multiple Sclerosis webinar. Building resilience and emotional well-being is a vital part of living with multiple sclerosis, as the condition can affect both physical health and mental health stability. Strengthening resilience helps people with MS manage stress and improve overall quality of life despite ongoing challenges. Our speaker today, Dr. Nahida Nayaz Ahmed, Chief Medical Officer from SAKINA and an American board-certified consultant psychiatrist. Dr. Nahida has been a key figure in advancing mental health care reforms in the UAE. Today, she will tell us more about the mental and neurological health with a focus on multiple sclerosis. Please note that you can send your questions through the Q&A chat box anytime during the session, and we will allocate 15 minutes at the end to answer your questions. Dr. Nahida, welcome. The floor is yours. Doctor, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry, I've been speaking with my mute on. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and thank you so much, Taman, for giving me this opportunity. MS and other neurological conditions are very much intertwined with mental health, and it really gives me a lot of pleasure to join you all today this morning and present to you some of the perspectives on how to focus on mental health when you have neurological issues, mostly MS and a few others. So before I'm going to start sharing my screen and let me know if this looks good to you guys. Yeah?
Yes, it's visible.
Wonderful. So before I start, I just want to mention that we're talking about, when we talk about resilience building and emotional well-being, it's not a one-size-fits-all. We are all uniquely different and similar in many ways. So what I'm trying to suggest here are some of the ideas, tips, and tricks that have worked for some of my patients for most part, and then you have to modify it and find your own way and your own style of inculcating them into your lifestyle, because we come from different backgrounds, our choices are different, our likes and dislikes are different, our strengths are different, and we are uniquely designed, each one of us. So don't feel under pressure that I have to apply all of these. You may pick and choose which suits you, which you're most comfortable with when it comes to the coping mechanisms or the coping skills that we are going to discuss today. So before I go in, because this was just addressed for multiple sclerosis, I would, from the audience, whoever is participating with the condition, I'd like to applaud you all for the resilience you show, for the strength you show. This is a very debilitating illness. I've had lots of friends and patients who have presented over the years with multiple sclerosis, and one thing that I learn from them day after day is their strength and their ability to make this disability a weapon for them to strengthen themselves physically and mentally and keep moving forward. So a big round of applause to all of you who are unfortunately afflicted by this illness, and not having given up and giving us an important life study for all of us, that resilience really pays off, and giving up is not an option no matter where. So without further ado, just giving a brief insight into multiple sclerosis. I know this is a platform open for the public, so I don't want to keep it very technical, but just fair enough to tell you that there are certain parts of the brains that are affected by this illness. It is gradually progressive, so there is a myelin sheath that engulfs our nerves and our brain and our structures in our brain that starts slowly, showing degenerative changes. That in turn affects the way your senses are perceived and your muscle strength is perceived, is developed or maintained. It comes with a lot of physical disability. Unfortunately, people gradually start, developing this inability to even stand up or attend to their ADLs. But with those physical disability, as a repercussion of physical disability and also as an organic issue, come with it a lot of mental health challenges. So those of you who are caregivers for multiple sclerosis patients, you would have noticed there's a lot of forgetfulness, there's a lot of cognitive deficits than younger people. They start, forgetting things or misplacing things. So this is one of the biggest challenge, and not to mention the fatigue that comes with the muscle weakness. And that fatigue leads to not socializing enough or not having an active lifestyle, which again further precipitates depression, anxiety, or any kind of mood that they may be battling with. So now, again, not trying to be very technical, you don't have to know which are the areas, but enough to know that emotional regulations is heavily impacted once these myelin sheaths start showing changes. And based on these emotional changes, your depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms start to surface. And most of these individuals would have panic-like features on a regular basis, and also the emotional dysregulation, wherein there is inappropriate, emotional response to any trigger. They could be excessive crying or excessive laughing or irritability and lashing out. So those of you who are in the caregiver roles might be at the receiving end of a lot of stress too, because of the kind of emotional response this person will be providing. But it's no fault of theirs. This is an organic issue that results into these kind of emotional disturbances. Now, obviously, stress has a lot to play a role in that, because the way our mind works is in terms of the perception of the stress that we have. If we are thinking something is very stressful, something is very, taxing and very much negative, if we assign a negative connotation to what we are going through, the experiences we have in life, the response is equivalently, negative and stressful, or induce that stress pathway, which is mostly through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal gland pathway and the autonomic nervous system. So these pathways in turn have physical repercussions in your body. For example, you'll have a lot of, I'm talking about general public as such, even when it comes to stress. If we are undertaking a lot of stress, we might go home with sore and achy muscles. Most of you might have noticed that the more stress you have, the more tired your body feels, the lesser you are able to register in your brain, because you're not, your frontal cortex is not highly alert, so you are forgetting things when you're more stressed. So this stress there's this organic issue, there is that physical issue, but also the emotional issue. So how you look at these disabilities will actually proliferate the response that you're going to have. So this is where the control strikes in, because this is where you can teach yourself that there is certain things that I can downregulate or upregulate based on my perceptions, my control, etc. Now, I know this is about multiple sclerosis, but since it's for general public, I thought I'll throw in a little bit more about other neurological conditions which have the similar implications. For example, stroke and TBI. TBI is traumatic brain injury. We have a lot of individuals who have at some point suffered injury to the head or head trauma from motor vehicle accidents or falls, etc. Stroke, which is like jalta, what we say in common language. Following stroke, even with full recovery, you can still be left with some amount of emotional dysregulations. Parkinson's, another progressive disease that results with a lot of physical and mobility related limitations. Multiple sclerosis, just we spoke about it. Epilepsy is another unfortunate condition that many young people live with. They've lived with that all their lifetime. Now, what's important to know that anything that's organically affecting your brain and your ability to think and work and the physical functions will automatically have an influence on your emotions, and vice versa. Your emotions can also have a big influence on how you are how you're feeling or how your disease is progressing. Enough to say that depression and anxiety scores really high in these individuals who have any kind of brain issues. Now, this talk is going to be dedicated on cultivating resilience. I know it is unfair for me, who does not have an illness, who does not have a physical mobility, to come and say you should do this. And this is where I come with with the utmost humility and completely knowing fully well that I'm not in your shoes. I don't know what you're going through, but these are some of the tricks that help most people, and that's something you may try to influence how you're feeling and how you're building your resilience and care. So by no means we're trying to be dismissive or pressurize you into feeling a certain way. this is an awful illness, and to live with any kind of illness or disability is it's unfair to some people, and we as the individuals who are outside that group or cohort of individuals who are not suffering have to maintain that we don't know exactly what they're going through, but we are here for a compassionate care for their support. So to the caregivers amongst you, please make it the point that you are always attentive to how they are feeling. Don't be dismissive. Don't tell them grab yourself, get a grasp on yourself, or be brave, or find you the. I mean, these are all good and affirmative talks, but sometimes they could feel like they are minimizing. So those of you who are caregivers, please be mindful of the language that you use. Please be mindful of the response you show for any individual with long-lasting disabilities, because that really matters for the people. Now, again, there are a few things that I really want to share with you, and this applies to most of us in many other circumstances, how to build resilience. So now the emotional resilience, especially when we're talking about, comes, and this is a very important and significant matter that is most neglected, that is social support system. These days, unfortunately, social support means how many follows you have on Instagram, or how many likes you got, or how many comments you have on your post. That is not how man was created. We were created to build tribes and herbs and villages and fight together, live together, have each other's back. And that comes not on a virtual platform somewhere in the cloud, but actually from face-to-face interactions, by being practically there for individuals, by sharing a meal. And there are lots and lots of studies that have come out and which have shown evidence that when people interact socially, there is, the prevalence of mental disorders goes down in those communities. The longevity actually is much more higher and marked. They are known to have healthier and longer and happier lives when they have strong social support systems. So this is something that we all have to go back and think about. How is our social support system, and whose social support system are we? How are we contributing to around us? Now, I understand completely. Some of you might have immigrated from another country. You might be, you might have left your families behind, and you're just here surrounded in a new environment. But that should not limit us in creating those social systems, because human-to-human connections, what it requires to build that is compassion, kindness, and friendship. You don't have to share blood. You don't have to share ethnicity or similar backgrounds and traditions and rituals or religious belief. Compassion is such a fundamental ingredient to binding us together, and I think that is so underutilized more and more these days. So that's one of the biggest factors in building resilience that will come in handy. And then second, of course, is the purpose. Like, what am I here for? Why am I waking up? I'm getting out of bed today. What does my day look like? So any kind of purpose. Now, I'm again fortunate to have a job, have roles like a mother or a wife or a CMO for that matter. So these are the roles that give me purpose. But now there are lots of individuals who are disabled, who are homebound, and they'll ask me, what's my purpose? So this is where, all of us, irrespective of what our backgrounds are, what our roles are, what our credentials are, have a sense of purpose that we give ourselves. It's not given by my title. It's not given by my roles or my relationships or marriage or whatever. It's given by myself. So what is my purpose? And what's my meaning that I carry? And this is where I was referring in the beginning, that each one of us is unique, and we all have to search for that purpose within ourselves. So my purpose could be, irrespective of all the credentials I'm carrying, my purpose could be just going out there and making somebody's day better today, or sharing an information that I have learned and passing it forward. So find your purpose. That is what will keep you pushing yourselves moving forward. I had the privilege of just seeing a new patient recently with MS, who's had to take retirement from workplace because of the disability. But mashallah, she's not stopped studying and learning and educating herself despite being bound to a wheelchair, because that's what she wants to pay it forward. So finding that purpose is very, very crucial to pushing yourself forward. Then again, that purpose will loop into the second thing that we're talking about, the self-efficiency and confidence. That when you find that purpose, I'm getting out of bed today, come what may. I'm going to get this module studied on YouTube, or I'm just giving hypothetical, scenarios, or I'm going to give a call to that one friend who's been having a tough time because of some personal issue, or whatever that thing. When you have attained that purpose, that perception of self-confidence that I have given back, I have provided, I'm a giver, and I've been meaningful, that really builds your self-efficiency and confidence in yourself and brings down that negativity and the lack of purpose or that depression by a huge margin. Then again, that really sets an emotional regulation, because that's something that we have to consistently work on. We know that your organic illnesses, maybe from the epilepsy or from your Parkinson's or your multiple sclerosis, may be causing you to be emotionally having different responses. But what it really comes down to is taming those responses, taming your emotions, and how we gather control. So we can think about it together in a few slides. So these are the factors that I'm just trying to lay out there as a introduction to what's coming in terms of what you'd have to focus. So much of what I'm going to share with you in the following slides would be a repetition of these, but these are the fundamental building blocks, in my opinion, to building resilient and emotional well-being. And again, cognitive behavioral strategies are there. So what it comes down to is sometimes it becomes really challenging, because the kind of triggers that you live around and the resources that you have and your inability to restructure or reframe your thoughts, that is when you want to seek help. And there is no stigma or shame in seeking help, especially mental health help. I think everybody should have at some point seen a therapist or a psychiatrist to go through their own understanding of themselves and their emotional regulations and how to manage them, because we don't live in a society which is very kind, or which is very cohesive. We have so many conflicts, so much of stress, so many changes consistently happening that we don't find time to actually find ourselves within. And this is where that guided therapy or cognitive strategies that these therapists are going to tell you or to talk to you about, the acceptance strategy, etc., are going to come in very handy. So those of you who think you need help, please seek help. There is a lot of help available out there, and we are building more and more resources into the community. So don't detach yourselves. Again, going back to the fundamental thing, let's say you have no time or social resources or financial resources to seek help. Your basic help can come from your community and social connections. So don't neglect that and don't isolate. The bottom line is, like, don't isolate. Be there, out and about, reach out, call on people. Call on even connections with God and religion and deen and nature, and I'll talk to you about a little bit more about that in a little bit. But these are connections human being survives on. So reach out to your connections, try to get help, and then strengthen your emotional well-being and how you see yourself and your illness and your commitment to getting better. Now, living with resilience, so obviously every illness will come with different disability. So, for example, with MS, like the person I was talking about, she had to take an early retirement. So there was this whole trajectory that she had charted out for herself, for a career, as when she would retire. But then MS threw a curveball in her life, and she had to take early retirement. Now she has to rebuild purpose, rebuild her goals, and reframe what she's going to be doing with her life. So take your time to do that. If you let it slip off, if you spend more and more time forgetting the purpose and not reframing your mind, the more you're going to sink into that dark space, where the depression starts building. For example, in Parkinson's, there is physical disability. There's a lot of tremors, and gait is, impaired. People are at risk of falling, and cognitive decline. So again, how much control can you get back? How much can you work towards being as much as possible, physically active? So that it's all about, when you don't have control, how much control can you gain? So there is a lot of so each one of them will work in a different direction, but it really, what it boils down to is connection, purpose, skills in terms of what needs to be done to move forward beyond this disability, and seeing that progress and acknowledging progress, because that progress is what is going to keep you going forward, and giving yourself that credit. Many times, most of us, I've seen, as human beings, we go through horrendous atrocities. We go through so many ups and downs, but we forget to acknowledge that, yes, I am a survivor. I have come out victorious. I have lived through this tough time, and I have made it out. So we don't give ourselves that positive, and we always wait somebody else would give that validation. But one of the things that I'm learning myself and teaching my patients is to give yourself that credit. Take the credit when you have put in that effort. So these are some of the ideas that we will explore. Again, I believe these are very, very, crucial to having that emotional stability. Now, these are also evidence-based strategies, some of the strategies that you will learn in therapy or on the self-help resources, guides, etc. For example, it comes to grounding, right? And everybody has a different ways of grounding. Grounding techniques, for me personally, I love taking a barefoot walk in either grass or sand. That really connects me to the nature. For me, connection with the nature is very, very important compared to connection with anybody else. So, and if for someone else, it could be another thing. It could be connecting with a person, giving a person a long, hug, or holding hands. Or for another person, it could be retrieving back into prayers and spending time in meditation. So again, that grounding, that which is being now and here, and disconnecting yourself from what's bothering you and all this conundrum of thoughts that flood your brain, and then saying, bringing that your midbrain, which is where all that drama of anxiety and emotional outburst happens, calming it down like a child. It's just think about how a child is having an outburst and how you would bring them to a calm space. That is what you're trying to do with your brain. So grounding techniques, and then taking breaks. So some of these are like, you'll have heard about them over and over again. Again, these are simple techniques and not meant for everybody. For example, if you tell me do progressive muscle relaxation, I would never be able to do it. For whatever reason, I have not been able to get myself to relax, especially, the muscle tension relaxation. Gratitude and small wins, that's something very easy. And because what happens when you say a word of gratitude and say Alhamdulillah, we always say Alhamdulillah, we say thank you to people, is that your brain resets it's and reframes itself. Because let's say your brain is going in a certain direction, that things are bad, horrible, and people are horrible, and things are going to go worse, and you say Alhamdulillah, it really retrieves back that whole negative trajectory, or that narrative that was being built up now says, okay, this person saying Alhamdulillah, which means it's not probably as bad. Maybe there is something to feel good about, because the gratitude is expressed because when you're happy about something in your life. So that whole build up of negativity or loneliness or paranoia or distrust comes down, and you're just retracting that whole build up by just saying Alhamdulillah, being, actually writing down what you're grateful for, or thinking about, I'm happy to be alive today. I'm happy to be in a country which is, so stable, and I'm happy to be surrounded by people who are healthy and who are loving me. There are multiple things that you can think of. And again, it comes down to perspective. You can think about what is missing, or you can think about what is there. And that's where that restructuring and reframing the narrative plays in handy. Again, I'm not going to go through one by one in details. These slides will be shared with everybody, and you can go through it. But these are some of the techniques that have worked for people, and they have evidence in the clinical practices to work. Now, I really love the word resilience. I think that is such a strong word, and then so much work is required in being resilient on day-to-day basis. Like, we never stop being resilient, no matter what age group we are in. It's not like it's a one-time or cross-sectional thing. Every one of us, till the day we die, are working on becoming more resilient. If we don't work towards becoming resilient and becoming weaker, so it's a way moving forward. It's a way becoming stronger. It's a way becoming maturer. So And again, going back to what I said earlier, the pillars of resilience, social connections, very, 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 very important. Cannot insist enough. Meaningful and purpose finding. Why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? And emotional regulation. How can I control what's not in my control? Where do I draw boundaries? How can I think differently about a certain thing? So now, emotional regulation, let's pause there and think about it. Many times my patients come to me and they're like, oh, we're in an abusive relationship, or he said this to me, or she did that to me, and that is the reason I'm here, trying to hurt myself, or feeling really depressed, or not able to sleep. So I give them a simple task, like take a pause and say, what can I change and what can I not change? Can I change what the person said to me? Can I change how the person is behaving towards me? Can I change who this person, what my circumstances are about getting a job or whatever? If there are things that you can change, go change them. If you think you cannot change, but you can definitely draw boundaries, please draw boundaries. You should not be at the level, at the receiving end of abuse, no matter who the person is in front of you. So drawing boundaries, and what is the most in your control is your impulse, your judgment, your thoughts of perceiving. So if somebody's saying something, let's say just some very, hypothetical, but something very common, you get upset with what somebody tells you, let it be a boss or a colleague. Now, you cannot change how this person thinks about you, but you can draw boundaries and say, I'm sorry, I don't appreciate that, and then also you can tell yourself, this doesn't matter. What they say is to them, to each his own. I don't need to buy into their narrative. I know who I am. I'm not going to believe it. So drawing those boundaries and claiming control goes a long way in those emotional regulations. What happens when those boundaries are not there and when you don't know your levels of control is that you flash back and you want to fight back. One of the things, like growing up, I grew up with my brothers, and for those of you who have younger brothers, you know how annoying they can be as children, especially. So they would fight with me all the time, and I would go to my granddad complaining about them most of the time. They're stupid, they're morons, they're bothering me, they do this to me. So one day my grandfather said something very, very powerful that has stayed with me all these years. He'd say, what are the chances they would say, we're sorry, we messed up, or we're sorry, we were wrong? I'm like, never happens. They're stupid people, brothers and sisters, right? And then my granddad would say, do you want to invest your energy in this fight when you know that these people are not going to change, when you know that your brothers are going to continue to annoy you? Do you want to invest energy in this fight? So that's something that really stayed with me. Whenever I have a conflict, I want to choose, do I want to invest energy in this, or it's not worth my time? And that really brings that control back, and it will avoid so many unnecessary conflicts, be it with people, be it when on the road, on in workplace, wherever. And that conservation of your emotions really builds, adds to your resilience. Then you start becoming like, you start brushing off people who really don't matter, brushing off matters that would have, triggered you or whatever. So you become stronger, just understanding what requires an investment of my energy. Is this worth the fight? There are some fights which are absolutely worth investing. There are some fights which you definitely should not put your weapons down, but not everything. So knowing where to deal with, and when things happen, accepting them, radical acceptance, understanding that certain things cannot be changed. Certain things are beyond our reach to undo so changing the perspective. One of the very famous psychologists, Marsha Linehan, she is the founder of what we call dialectical behavioral therapy. She says there are 4 solutions to any problem in this world. Anything you can do, whatever problem you have at hand, just put it in front of you and ask first question, can I change the problem? If the answer is no, you say, can I change? If the answer is yes, of course, you go ahead and change. If the answer is no, then you say, can I change how I look at this problem? Maybe there's something I've missed. Maybe I've missed the perspective of the person in front of me. Maybe I need to give some benefit of doubt for this argument being happening. If that is an answer is no, she says, Khalas, you then move on to say, accept it, radical acceptance. This is who this person is going to be. This is what this is the problem, and this is nothing I can do about it. And accept it and move on. It is not worth my fight. I'm not fighting. And the 4th final problem is that when you're not able to do any of that, you choose to be miserable. you're going to go in heads on, fighting back and expending all your energy that could have been spent in a better place, which is a wrong choice, of course, and you shouldn't avoid as much as you can. Now, what happens when you dial down all that emotional outburst and that argumenting or whatever, is that you come to a space where you are feeling safe, from within yourself, also with around yourself. And especially, let's say you are giving somebody a benefit of doubt and say, looks like you're having a bad day. I'm going to have a conversation with you another day. So what happens is that that individual in front of you is now not tempted to lash back and continue and fight you and drag you down. This person now feels like, yes, I don't have to put up a fight because this person is understanding. I really am having a horrible day. And there comes this spike of oxytocin. And I think we've spoken about oxytocin on many platforms. And it's the word that most influencers talk about these days on social media as well. What oxytocin does to you is the complete opposite of what cortisol does, which is like going opposite to what stress response would be. That says relaxing, feeling in a safe space, feeling that you're taken care of, feeling somebody has your back. What this brings down is really calms your brain down to feel, and that's when you start thinking instead of becoming overly excited or hyper reflexive. You just start thinking, how can you solve this problem now, because you're in a safe space. Imagine the best poetries or the best artwork or everything is done not when somebody is fighting in the battlefield in the middle of the combat zone, but when somebody is in a place where they are having peace of mind, having that security and having that safety of the space. So we can create these cocoons of safe spaces, but just smiling. Honestly, all it makes is smile back at the person and say, how are you doing? And when you say, how are you doing, really mean it. Like, how is your day actually been? What can I do to make it better? Is there something else that you need? Do you want somebody to listen to what's going on? And it could be any random stranger. You could be talking to a barista in front of you and say small chats about life or sports or whatever. These small things build that community sense, the sense of friendliness, the sense of like, yes, this is a space where we are feeling safe. So creating those safe spaces, that's where the whole community support and social connections, etc., come in place. Balanced diet, a lot of us ignore that, and especially so when we have disabilities or social, challenges, physical or challenges with neurological health or health challenges, etc. One thing that I always insist to my patients is never lose track of your diet. This is so important on how you feel. Excess sugar could be so harmful for your anxiety. Lack of sugar, absolute lack of sugar could be so harmful for your depression, because now you're not eating anything, your fatigue becomes worse and your physical exercises goes down, your thinking and memory power goes down. So all of it is so interrelated. Having a balanced diet, managing your energy, resting your body, and also not indulging in overeating. These are all so important. And if you want more guidance on how you can manage your emotions with your diet, please seek help. There are lots of trained professionals out there who can give you evidence-based, practical guides. Again, emotional management, we're going back and forth from different techniques on how to manage and build resilience. One of these, some of the things that I have learned are honestly not from lectures or my professors, but they come from some really good books and just listening to my patients. So, and I've done a compilation of some books, some ideas from different places, and I think spreading these ideas is how I've tried to help some other patients as well. So these are other few thoughts that you can. It's just reframed in a different way, but these are deeply grounded in Japanese philosophy, where you're talking about resilience. But to be resilient, you need to have that vulnerability. You're to be to how do you manage the broken things? That the philosophy of kintsugi, I think that's how it's said. You might have seen the broken vase with those gold poured into the broken cracks to make it more beautiful. So accepting that beyond our disabilities, beyond our physical appearances, beyond our the way we look exteriorly. There is so much beauty in everything. It just takes your eyes in perspective to see it. And identifying that in others as well. So looking beyond the cracks and loops and holes and gaps, and understanding the beauty around people, beauty inside people, that is where you find the strength and understanding resilience. Sorry about that. Again, this is my favorite, and this works for me. Like I said, everybody has a different way of practicing resilience building. For me, being in the nature, taking deep breaths, walking barefoot, really helps, because the connection that we have with Mother Earth and the nature and the creation is profound, and we are part of. In the end of the day, we're part of that one energy that is, on this big floating rock. My daughter calls the world as a floating rock. Mama, we are living on a floating rock, and we think so much about ourselves. So it's a beautiful way of looking at things, that it minimizes you, but also it brings you to an idea that you're also connected to each other and to the world itself. So hone into those resources that the nature provides. Then there is also this whole thing, especially with my younger individuals, that I always insist on routine, sleeping on time, waking up on time, having the same schedule every day. This creates a sense of purpose, because I'm getting out of bed this morning to do this. And when I've done this, I have achieved it. So that sense of accomplishment. So no matter what your limitations are, no matter how disabled you feel or what life has thrown at you, create something for yourself to do. It could be as minimum as something, going out or having a conversation. So I remember I had this one patient. He was with schizophrenia. He's diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he used to be very violent, apparently, when he was untreated. So people really dosed him up with a lot of antipsychotics. When he came to me, he looked literally like a zombie. So my journey with him was to bring down the medications to a point that his symptoms were under control, but also he was not a zombie. Now that he was wide awake and alert, we had to give him a purpose to do. So he would say, we would have these conversations about what he likes to do. He loved eating keema paratha for breakfast. So I'm like, instead of sending the help to go get it, why don't you walk down to the store and buy it yourself? Why don't you sit down and eat? He likes to, then talking about his grooming, go to the barber store and ask him about his. So there were sessions that I would only discuss the barber stories with him, but that gave him a sense of purpose, being a listener to people, going out and just seeing people and talking to people. And there was another wonderful young man that I was treating. The way we started rehabilitation was that his task was going to the mosque at least once a day, every day for a week, to see if he can fix it. Once on his way to mosque, it's not just about going to the mosque for prayers. It's about, to go out of the house, he has to get dressed. That means he has to take a shower. He has to look good. He has to, take the car and fill the car with fuel. And he has to go to a certain place and meet people, greet people. So this whole journey has that social connections involved in so many levels that it really builds on his therapy and his recovery. SubhanAllah, there came a time that he was so attached to going to the mosque, not because of the prayers itself, but because he would collect the older elderly men in the neighborhood who would go to the mosque at the same time as a carpool. So he became a designated driver to collecting all these people, and that gave him a sense of purpose. So see, these are individuals who had nothing to do in their lives. They thought they take their medications and sleep and eat. That's all their life was. Now they are doing something. So you don't need to have a job. You don't need to have money. You don't need to have resources. You can find, if you dig in your vicinity, things to do that give you a sense of purpose. Again, reflecting, spending time with yourself is so important. I know people are so especially with the social media, we really constantly want to have that external stimulus, external ideas and external information to consume them. It's almost like consuming fast food, which is complete junk and not healthy in any ways, and getting your health on the contrary in the wrong direction. So that's how I feel about social media. But while we take a break from all of these, put a pause, just shut off from everything and take a pause and think about where you're heading, what you're it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be 70-year-old to spend time with yourself. You could do it right now, right here, and think about your purpose. What is your purpose going to be like? What makes you happy? And understanding yourself is so important before you expect anybody else to understand. So that really goes into your mindfulness now and here. Who am I? What's my purpose? How can I connect? Where is my connection to my God? What's my connection to the nature? What's my connection to people? What's my connection to myself? So these are the 4 connections that we have to build on gradually, day by day, every day, to maintain that stress level, to maintain that emotional dysregulation under control. Right. Again, can't go on and on enough about how much social support and community connections matter. It is the fundamental reasons human beings are where they are, because we stood with each other, we took care of each other, we supported each other. So there was this one TED talk that I came across. It was given by an anthropologist, and the audience had asked her at some point about the first sign of human civilization. What is the first sign from all the excavation and the history of human civilization? And her answer baffled everybody, because her answer was, it was a broken and healed femur. Those of you who don't know, femur is the big strong bone in your thigh that really is so important for you to stand and walk and move. It was really important for a human being to be mobile. Now, if a femur is broken, you have to give it time to heal, and give it time to readjust before you can walk, which means you're limited in your mobility, which means somebody has to take care of you, to feed you, to keep you safe from prey, these animals or harsh environment. So that, according to her, was the first sign of civilization, when human beings came together to take care of each other, to feed each other, to protect each other. This is how, ladies and gentlemen, we have evolved, connecting with each other. So I cannot insist enough, find those connections, create those connections, and nourish those connections, because that is our ticket out of any mental health problems, out of any issues that are so boggling our minds at this point. So connections, please. Again, the resilience plan, as I said, it could be very much customized to each his own. You find what is most important for you and start working on it. You can create it more objectively, make a vision board of what you want to do in terms of your professional growth, your personal growth, your spiritual growth, drawing strategies. So this is all, very consultancy level stuff, but it looks like that, but it really goes very handy when it comes to fixing yourself. Now, these are some of the books, as I said earlier. I love to share ideas from the books. Ikigai is a purpose-driven resilience, very, very profound philosophy, and I really think everybody should read this book. It's very simple and small, but gives you a lot of insight into the purpose that we all chase. Again, Ikigai is about being now and here, being about the mindfulness, making beauty out of where we are. We could be sitting ideal in a blank space, and you can find beauty there. You can find purpose there, and you can enjoy that purpose and enjoy the serendipity of small coincidences. So make beauty out of life, and that lies really in the perspectives that you adapt in life. So it's all in our hand. This again goes back to the first slide we spoke about, in control. We control how we feel, we control how we think, and where we invest in our energy. So be very, very mindful of where you put your energy. This is another favorite book of mine about the life-changing magic of tidying up. It's basically for tidying up a physical space for hoarders and people who like to collect a lot of things. But really, when applied to your mind, you can do a lot better when it comes to letting go of things, understanding what makes you happy, and keeping that close, no matter the small things. It could be and being connected with nostalgia, being it's about decluttering your emotional baggage. That's how I look at it. If you think of life as if you're traversing a terrain, carrying a bag on your backpack, and you're like a backpack on your back, and you're dropping all your emotions in that bag, the terrain becomes tougher as you grow older and higher you go. On a summit, let's say if you're summiting a mountain, you want to have a very light backpack on your back, because that's going to break your back and you will not let you summit. So getting rid of that emotional baggage that you keep dropping in your back is the way I look at it about decluttering. So very quickly, really proud to be part of an organization, SAKINA. We are here for promoting healthier, happier, longer lives. We have a whole array of services from inpatient to outpatient. We are available through Pura. We are situated from corner to corner of Abu Dhabi, Emirate of Abu Dhabi, that is. So please reach out. Our call center number is 800 U, that is YOU. And we have wonderful, compassionate providers across the service, across the centers, providing care across lifespan. So no matter what age group, we are providing services to them. And this year being the year of family, I want to take a moment to remind everybody to invest in time for your family members, the connections that we just spoke about, all this. You don't have to go out and find friendships on dating apps or in community. You have it at home. Build those, nourish those, nurture those, no matter what your disability, what your illness is, what your social situation is. These are precious privileges that we enjoy, so thrive in it. And the rest of the matters, we're here for you. Thank you. So that brings me to the end of the slide show, and I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Dr. Nahida, for the informative presentation. And we will be moving now to our next segment, which is the Q&A. So, Doctor, we have a few questions here. So, to start with, what are some misconceptions about multiple sclerosis that we need to be aware of?
Misconceptions about what, sorry?
Multiple sclerosis, MS.
Misconceptions about multiple. So some of the misconceptions that I know, I'm not a neurology, again, full disclosure, I'm a psychiatrist, so I see the emotional aspect of multiple sclerosis, but majority of them think that the disability is so taxing that there's nothing that they can do. They just sit down and wait for it to get worse and worse over time. But the fact remains, for having seen so many people with multiple sclerosis, that a good diet, a good physical regimen, and a strong, resilient emotional well-being goes a long way in how the disease progresses and how stronger you can be. The other thing is about also cognitive issues. You don't have to give in to the idea that you're now in a decline mode. You can actually keep building. So despite the fact that the demyelination will have a progressive effect, you can slow down that progression by healthier habits that you can practice. And of course, it's not contagious. So that's another thing some of them have spoken about.
Thank you for answering that, Doctor. Also, Doctor, someone from the audience is asking, if social support is missing and the work environment is toxic, how can someone cope well? I think this is a huge thing since work is also part of the routine, which all connects to emotional well-being.
No, absolutely. And unfortunately, this is the reality we live in. And again, the word toxic is floated around so, rampantly. I want you to just take a pause and think about it, rethink about it. You are perceiving it as toxic, but there will be clusters within the workspace where you reach out to lower down that toxicity level or the perception of toxicity, and you can build. So we are somehow contributing, all of us are contributing to the workspace, right? If you just take the workspace example. Start building that culture of safe space. You don't have to be the mudir of the team, or you don't have to be the team leader or anything. You could be as simple as, like, in our office, my assistant takes control of everything, of that positive vibe and spreading that positive cheer. And she is not necessarily the boss of everybody, but she brings that vibe. So you can bring that vibe into a workspace by making small modifications to the space of, spending, let's say, 10 minutes getting into the office, asking each other, how are they doing? Just exactly like, what's their day look like? How are they doing today? How is their mood? So connecting with each other in an office space which is where we spend majority of our lifetime these days, in connecting on an emotional level and in providing that reassurance that if you are having a bad day, it's okay. We're here to support you, or sharing a meal, eating together. These are small things that tend to build communities and cultures. And again, I know many of you living away from family members, going out and about, and it doesn't have to be a long lasting same person day after day you show up for. You can make small talks. There is so much value in small talks, which people don't necessarily bank on. And it can really reset and reframe the way you think and feel.
Thank you, doctor, for that. We also have a question that states, what's the difference between the emotional challenges of MS and other mental health conditions?
So the emotional challenges of MS are precipitated a lot by the fatigue and the weakness and the quality of life. So majority of the time, and also that label, that I am disabled now. I'm using a wheelchair, which means I'm not normal enough. I'm limited in many things. So that those things add and precipitate the way we feel emotionally. Like, for example, depression and anxiety can be far more than a normal person with depression and anxiety because of the coexisting disabilities. But having said that, again, finding the purpose, giving a new narrative, saying, bring it on. This is a disability, bring it on. I'm going to face it head on and do the best I can. I'm going to have a purpose till the last day I live. And that applies to everybody. We need to find that purpose and we need to get out and keep moving forward. Staying stuck is where people go wrong. No matter what conditions, either TBI, either post-stroke, either MS, even the Parkinson's, staying stuck and saying, Khalas, I've got this illness, I'm not going to be able to do anything, giving up. That is, I think, the fundamental problem. Finding even baby steps, small steps to move forward day by day is how we progress in life.
Thank you, doctor. And doctor, about stress, what are some short-term solutions to relieve stress immediately?
So the immediate stress, again, the best way that works is mindfulness and, being now and here. For example, if you're having a bad day and somebody has really yelled at you or screamed and had given you a hard time, finding a quiet space and reconnecting with yourself. Connection with yourself is the easiest, right? Because you're always there. Wherever you go, there you are. So, and finding out who you are as a person, what are the good things in you, what are you grateful for, and that whole conversation you're having in your head really brings your amygdala down. Amygdala is our midbrain between our ears, and that's the reason, that's the seat where all the anxiety and the stress builds and develops, and that flood of emotions come from. So when you provide that safe space and say, take a deep breath and think about who you are, your purpose, even meditate, pray, or take a walk on the sand, whatever. These things are grounding techniques, and these are mindfulness techniques that bring that bubble of amygdala calms down. So as I said earlier, it's exactly like calming down a young baby and soothing them. So that's what you would want to do.
And doctor, regarding burnout, so how can individuals recognize when they are approaching burnout?
Burnout comes with a lot of physical signs as well as emotional. So lack of sleep, feeling fatigued all the time, having muscle tensions, not being able to focus, doing too many things at the same time, having emotional irritability, like just snapping out at people, not finding that peace. All these are indicators that you are overstressed. Your battery is running low and you are just stretching thin. All you have to do is pause. There's a nice book called The Pause Principle. When anything is moving with a certain speed, it is bound to go into friction or bound to slow down or bound to, burn out. So you have to pause and regenerate all of that energy by just detaching yourself from whatever is that's causing you to keep stretching. For example, if you have a big project like in our office, what we do is that we put in all of our energy into that project. We might be doing extra hours, burning both ends of the candles, doing everything. But once the project's over, we just stop, like nothing matters anymore. 2-3 days, and then bang, we come back with another new set of energy. So that pause is so important. Go in that pause time, you just have to detach and go out, go kayaking, fishing, biking, whatever. Do something that is not stressful, and then you come back. But being mindful of stress, burnout is very important.
Thank you, doctor. And we are moving to our final question. As an MS patient, and since 2018, when addressing anxiety or depression related to MS, how do you decide between psychological therapy, medication, or a combination of both?
So the degree of how much the anxiety and depression is bothering you, if they are coming up with neurovegetative symptoms such as, I want to, like, subhanAllah, some of the times depression can become so difficult that people are not leaving their bed, they're not getting out of bed, they're not eating, they constantly feel like, khalas, I want to die, I want this to all stop and leave. So that passive suicidal ideation, they're not sleeping. So all these neurovegetative symptoms, when they start piling up, we think about adding some medications, because medications, what they do is they reset the neurochemical balance in your brain and help you think, not feel all the time. So the medication, by the way, just gives you a nudge to apply all those therapeutic interventions that we spoke about. Sometimes our brain is so foggy and so blanked out with depression and anxiety that we cannot, no matter how much I tell you, do mindfulness, look for your purpose, it's all going blank because your brain is not in a space to adapt. So see a provider. If it is, medications can be life-saving, honestly, when it comes to depression and anxiety. So if you need it, take it. And they are not addictive, which is a myth. They won't change you or intoxicate you. You're not going to be oozy and loopy, what people think in the community of psych medications. These are just generic, as simple as, any other medication that you would take for your thyroid or your diabetes, what have you.
Thank you, Doctor. With that, we will wrap our Q&A session. Thank you once again, Dr. Nahida, for sharing your expertise and valuable insights on such an important topic. And now to our audience, we have now reached the end of our webinar. Thank you for joining us and participating. Please take a moment to answer the survey questions. Your feedback and input is important to us. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, everybody.